Welcome back to the Sports Sesh podcast for our 48th episode. We're getting closer to that big 5-0 and we're here for UFC 262 post show. How are you doing, James?
I'm all good, thank you, mate. Yeah, as you alluded to then, we're about 2 or 3 episodes away from the 50 mark, and coincidentally, we're not that far off from a year's anniversary. So it'd be nice to hit the 50 mark soon, maybe next week, and then hit the year mark on June 12th or whenever it is. So I can't complain, apart from all the uni stress, but I'm all good, mate. How about yourself?
I can't complain myself, man. Obviously, we had a weekend of some interesting fights and also some good fights. We'll go on to the interesting in a moment, but one fight I wanted to touch on, Lando Venata and Mike Grundy. In the lead up to the fight, I wanted Mike Grundy to win just because it's another win for the Brits, but I can't fault Lando in that fight against an Olympic caliber wrestler in Mike Grundy defending those takedowns. I didn't think he was going to do it as well, but I can't fault him. And to get the win, he deserved the win. But I just wanted to make a point of the 30-27 that a judge gave for Mike Grundy. As much as I love Mike and love watching any Brit fight, that was not 30-27 to Mike Grundy. I don't think Mike Grundy... The only way you could argue, and you'd have to give up a very strong case for Mike to win, would be slightly 29-28 for Grundy, but I had it 29-28 for Lando. But it was a good fight. What did you make of it?
I genuinely thought it was a very good fight as well, because you look at Lando Venata, he's had some tough fights at 155. You look at I'm thinking of the Tony Ferguson fight in particular way back when, and he was I think from my sort of perspective, he was definitely a small 155er, and I think it was inevitable after the recent results that he was going to try and cut that extra 10-15 pounds to go back down to featherweight. But yeah, I was very impressed with Venata. I think, he landed the first round or so, he landed a couple of good shots early on, and then, as you alluded to there, the way he's just sort of stuffed Grundy's takedowns, or even when Grundy did take Venata down, I mean, he didn't do damage, and then B, Venata was straight back on his feet. And it was just, I was very impressed with Venata because, as you said there, Mike Grundy's a high-level wrestler, and once he gets you to the floor, it's very tough to get back up. And I was very impressed with Venata's clinch work, and just to sort of escape some of the takedown attempts from Mike Grundy. And again, I think Mike Grundy he definitely had his moments. I think even on the feet that both men were starting to exchange, and I think in the second round they were exchanging blows, and I think Venata just came out on top. But I think Grundy, towards the end of the second round, he landed another big right hand. So Grundy, it's fair to say he had his moments, but I think Venata, I was surprised with how well he performed, because again, when you cut an extra 10-15 pounds, it's always tough. So I've got nothing but respect for him.
As you said, obviously, they was both trading blows, but I think the downfall maybe for Grundy was it seemed that he was only throwing one strike at a time, like a jab or a right hand. But I think I heard the commentators saying if he threw a few combinations or something, he could have had the upper hand in the striking exchange in the second round, but he was just throwing one shot.
Yeah, and I think with wrestlers, I mean, it's very hard to try and win the striking exchanges because your bread and butter is the work you do on the canvas. So as soon as the fight starts standing again and you're having to sort of rely on the striking department, they tend to struggle. I mean, it can come up clutch in a way at times when you look at Khabib, when he had that sort of traditional classical wrestler's overhand. I'm looking at the one where he dropped or clipped McGregor, and when they fought with that vicious wrestler's overhand. So in a way, it can work in their favor, but I think 9 times out of 10 with high-level wrestlers, and I mean, with no disrespect to Mike Grundy, I don't see him anytime soon competing against the top 5 and the top 10 contenders at featherweight. So if you're fighting these sort of low-caliber guys, it's very difficult to work your way up the rankings if you're not going to be versatile in all departments. And it's very clear that he's got some work to do on the feet. And he's a great wrestler, like I said, but on the feet, I think it's very questionable, and he does need to do a bit of work on his striking game.
Well, as I know, Mike's had 3 fights within the UFC now. He won his debut via a TKO, which was the first of his career, but he's now on a 2-fight skid. Obviously, his fight before the one he's just had was against Movsar Evloev, I believe, and there's no shame in losing to Movsar. And he had his moments in the fight. He almost finished him with a Darce choke in the first round, and he ended up breaking his jaw within the fight, and he still went the 3 rounds with Movsar. So that fight, you can forget about that one because it was a good fight, and he was unlucky to lose it. But this one, I don't know how it's going to affect him. I think he's going to have to go back to the drawing board, work a lot on his striking. But as we know, he trains at Team Cowbon, and they've got some good strikers in there, obviously, like Darren Till and Tom Aspinall, the main guys in there. So it's not like they're short on guys for him to learn from striking. I know they're a weight class or 2 above, but it's not like they're going to be short of helping him improve his striking. So as I say, give him a couple of months, 3, 4, 5 months or something, go back to the drawing board, see if he can get back in the win, and then he can talk about potentially getting into the top 15, because he needs to get a win or 2 under his belt before he talks about the top 15, because as we know, the featherweight division is one of the most, well, at the minute, it seems like every division has the fighters that are making it stacked, but it seems like featherweight has an even more stacked than some divisions. So he's going to have to get a win or 2 under his belt just to even get considered into the top 15, I think.
No, 100%. It's a shame, but again, there's no shame in losing to Lando Venato again, because as I said earlier, he's been in so many wars at lightweight recently. So cutting down that extra 10, 15 pounds, again, like I said, there's no shame in losing to Lando Venato. I think with Mike Grundy now, he's just got to get, like you say, get back to the drawing board, train with the likes of Darren Till and Tom Aspinall, and go again. That's all you can do. I mean, these things happen as a fighter. 9 times out of 10, you're not going to go your whole career unbeaten. There's always going to be something stopping you. There's always going to be a setback. So again, the best thing to do is just get back to the drawing board and go again. And maybe fight at the end of the year. I'd like to see Mike Grundy, fight November, December time towards the end of the year, and then we'll just go again and we'll see who it's against and see if he can get the victory in that night.
100%. I'm going to go on to another fight, and it seems the past couple of pay-per-views we've had some fights end to injury quite often now, and it's getting tough to see, because obviously, like we said, UFC 261, you had Jimmy Crute with his injury, which wasn't as bad, but it was tough to see. But then also you had the horrific Chris Weidman injury. An update on Chris, some people don't know, it looks like he is starting to walk slightly again, which I've seen on his Instagram, so we both wish him the best recovery and hopefully see him back in there soon. But this weekend, I heard it as well, and I think I only heard the Chris one when I listened back to it, but I heard this live and I thought, Jacare Souza, man. It seems to be these legends that keep getting hurt, and it is really tough to see, obviously. Can't take anything away from Andre Muniz. He did what he had to do, and it's just part of the submission. It was an arm bar and it broke his arm, but I'm not going to take any discredit from Andre. He deserved the win on the night, but I was shocked he managed to. Well, it's classed as a submission, but I was shocked he was managed to end the fight in that way via a submission against Jacare of all people. As we know, he's one of the best Brazilian jiu-jitsu middleweights that we've ever seen. But with Jacare, nicest way possible, I think it's time.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I mean, in the early exchanges, I thought, it was a bit of a tentative start to the fight. He had a couple of body kicks from Souza, and you had Munoz eating them, and then would return fire with his own combination. And then I think Souza shot early on, 1 minute in, I believe, got the takedown, and then dropped a couple of hard punches. But again, I think nothing that Munoz is, ever sort of cautious and scared of, because obviously he got back up to his feet, landed some nice combinations of his own, managed to shoot, and then eventually later on in the first round get the submission. So it is definitely a shame, because I think what's that? That's like four fight losing streak now for Jacare Souza. It's 3 or 4. Yeah, and it's a shame, because it's getting to the point where you look at the likes of Jacare Souza, Donald Cerrone, Tony Ferguson now, these legends are sort of this traditional classical breed of MMA fighters that we were so used to growing up and taking punishments like that in recent weeks. It's hard to see. It really is, because back in the day, I was a big fan of Jacare Souza. What he was able to do in the middleweight division was brilliant. He was in contention he was facing the top guys at middleweight, and to see him getting brutally beaten now, it really is sad. It's a sad sight. And I mean, you take nothing away from Andre Muniz. He had the perfect game plan, and he just sort of yeah, he did. I mean, he's Brazilian as well, so he out BJJ the BJJ King, if you know what I mean. So I've got nothing but respect for Munoz. Take nothing away from him, but Jacare Souza, like you said, I think it's time to call it quits because he's early 40s, 41, 42. So yeah, so I don't see him getting back to the top anytime soon or ever again. With no disrespect, I mean, you look at this new era of middleweights coming up through the ranks. It's just going to be a tough ask to get back into the top 10 picture.
Well, we've seen what Kevin Holland did to Jacare, and obviously, I know Kevin's mainly kind of one-dimensional, but we've seen what's happened to Kevin in his last 2 fights against the top guys, Brunson,
top wrestlers and grapplers. Yeah,
if Jacare got in with one of them, I think some serious damage could be done, and that's why I think he should hang up the gloves. And it's the fact that how bad of an injury it didn't look as bad as obviously Chris's, but it's the fact that you could hear it. Plain and simple, clear as day, and that was it. It wasn't a nice sound to hear at like 4:30 in the morning. I'll just put it like that. But yeah, it wasn't the best to see. But I don't. Yeah, like we say, I think that's it for Jacare. But who do you think Andre Muniz should fight next? Because I think for me, it's either he fights another unranked guy and then fights a top 15, or fights the winner of Brad Tavares and Amari Akhmedov, is it? I believe. I think he could fight the winner of that.
Maybe even the loser of that.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know at the minute.
No, I don't see him facing a top 15 right anytime soon. I mean, again, with no disrespect to Andre Muniz, putting a cracking performance, but a win over a Jacare Souza. Yes, I know he's a legend of the game, but it's not really impressive as it was. Say if you got the win against him 5-6 years ago. Again, like I said, no disrespect to Andre Muniz. As I said, he put in a cracking performance, but I still think he needs at least 1 or 2 fights before you can start putting him in the top 15, the top 10 contention, and throwing him into the real true grits and true dogs at 185. So we'll just have to wait and see.
Well, the next fight I wanted to talk about, it was a weird one, this one. Edson Barboza and Shane Burgos. We were talking pre-show, and wow, it was strange because obviously I remember watching it. Edson hits him 1-2, and then 3-4 seconds later he runs back and then falls.
Yeah,
very late reaction. What did you make of the fight?
Oh, I loved it. What can I just say? Shane Burgos has a steel chin. He took some hard shots throughout that fight. I've got nothing but praise for Edson Barboza. I mean, what a performance he put in that night. He kept marching forward, and he was trading blows early on, and he didn't give up. He did not give up. I mean, Shane Burgos, he's been in a lot of wars, and he's faced a lot of good guys at 145 over the last year or so. And for Edson Barboza to put in that performance, I've got nothing but respect for Junior. Obviously at 155, I saw in his post-fight interview, he was, and it surprised me. He said he was killing himself to try and make the 155 weight. You never hear that before. Trying to keep the weight up rather than killing yourself to try and make weight and get the weight down. So to kill yourself in an attempt to keep your weight up, that's sort of saying something, isn't it? And I think now he's 2-1 at featherweight against Makwan Amakani, and now Shane Burgos. And then again, the fight with Dan Ige could have gone either way. I think at the top of my head, I don't know. I might have to watch it back again. I think I scored it in Barboza's favour because you saw him after the fight going, "Oh, I'm 3-0 featherweight." And again, I thoroughly enjoyed the fight. I mean, you saw Barboza land his traditional highlight reel kicks and body kicks and head kicks early on, and the wheel kick in the end of the first round literally was barely blocked by Burgos. I mean, if he sort of had his hand any lower Burgos, that would have connected clean, and that would have been lights out for Shane. So he did well, and Barboza mixed up his striking very, very, very excellently. I was very impressed with his stand-up performance from Barboza, because as soon as he was sort of trading jabs, he would immediately try and set up the leg kick, and just to sort of catch Shane Burgos off guard. I've got nothing but respect, because Burgos, he, like I said, he took some damage. He had a lot of leg kicks. He had a lot of head kicks and body kicks as well, and he had a lot of jabs as well, but still kept marching forward, still landing, combinations of his own. But I think those sort of stiff jabs and those body kicks from Barboza really took its toll. And then I think obviously in the third, they were trading leg kicks to start off with, and then Barboza was literally keeping those jabs to the body. And Burgos, I think, was starting to, I think he was starting to run out of answers because he was looking for those combinations to try and trade in the center. But, oh my God, when he landed that huge 1-2, you could tell it, like I said off cam, you could tell it really hurt Shane Burgos, because I think it was the right one that landed on the temple. He was sort of wobbling a bit, and he just sort of stumbles back and crumbles to the mat. I was just there like, oh my God. You could tell he's unconscious, because when you saw it on slow-mo, it's just the way his eyes went whilst he was still standing. I was there like, oh, that's such a bad stoppage. And when you've got Dana White screaming off his seat and all that, you just know it was such a weird end to the fight. And fair play to Burgos, because you saw him after the fight. He was standing. And he's like, Dana, look, I don't want to go to the hospital. I'm fine. To take that damage and get knocked out like that, and to sort of still standing after the fight and say, look, I don't need to go to the hospital. It just shows what a true warrior Shane Burgos is. As I said earlier, he's got a steel chin for days, because he took a lot of damage in that fight. And I think with Shane Burgos, with Edson Barboza now, I'd fight. He definitely deserves a top contender. I'd stick him in there with Arnold Allen, personally. Or Sadiq Youssef. I know Sadiq Youssef's coming off of that loss. So it depends where the UFC want to go. Do you give him another sort of like high-ranked contender who's coming off of a defeat? Or do you just throw him in there amongst the top contenders at 145? Because I know Arnold Allen is on a crazy streak right now. He's on a good run at the moment. So do you match them up together, or are you patient with Edson Barboza? That's the thing. Like, what do you think's next for him?
Personally, I'd go Sadiq Youssef, to be honest. I think if he can defeat Sadiq Youssef, obviously, we've seen in the Youssef and Allen fight that was a very competitive fight. So if Barboza can get through Youssef, I think throw him in there with the likes of Arnold Allen and the top ranked guys. Or maybe if he wants to wait, fight the loser of who is it now? The Korean Zombie and Dan Ige. What
if Dan Ige loses? He's already fought Dan Ige.
Yeah, that's true.
So
maybe even chuck him in with a winner, depending how quick you want to push him at featherweight.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, imagine the Korean Zombie versus Barboza fight.
That'd be insane, because Korean Zombie getting a title shot soon. I don't believe. I don't think he's gonna have to win 2 or 3 on the bounce to get him back in tension.
Yeah, 100%. So obviously you got Max Holloway. He's coming off of that win against Calvin Kattar, so it'll be really tough to see a Korean Zombie get a title shot soon, because you look at him against a fight with Brian Ortega. I thought, it was Brian Ortega. I genuinely thought that Korean Zombie would have got the job done. You know, I know with Brian Ortega, he's got such great ability on the canvas. You've seen a couple of his submission ground game, and even he had the knockout power, because you saw his finish over Frankie Edgar. But on the feet, you obviously would have given it to the Korean Zombie, just because he's been in the UFC for a while and he's so versatile in his striking. I love watching Korean Zombie because he's there for a true scrap. And it was a shame to see him lose against Brian Ortega, but take nothing away from Brian Ortega. That performance was sensational, because his striking has clearly come leaps and bounds since his defeat to Max Holloway. And I don't know. I mean, Korean Zombie, stick him in there with Edson Barboza. That'd be a banging fight. But I think Edson Barboza definitely needs one more win under his belt to earn the top contender, top 5 contender, top 6 contender like the Korean Zombie.
Well, I was going to say, depending how quick they want to push him or how long they want to wait, either, obviously, Youssef, Allen, the winner of Zombie or Ige, or maybe even Calvin Kattar.
Again, it depends how desperate they want him to sort of get in amongst the title contention, because Edson Barboza has been in the UFC for a while. He's a bit of a household name. At lightweight, he had so many battles and so many good fights under his belt, so everyone will know who he is. He's a bit of one of the great Brazilian fighters to ply his trade in the UFC. So I don't think anyone will have any complaints with him getting the top guy. But again, like you said, it just depends how Dana White wants to sort of play this out, as he says.
Well, I'm going to go on to the second to last fight we've got to talk about.
Do we have to?
Yeah, but to be fair, I predicted it right of how it went, but I really wish Tony won that. Obviously, Tony Ferguson versus Beneil Dariush. Dariush got the decision win. We can't take nothing from Dariush. Great performance on his half, but as much as it pains me to say, I think it's the end of Tony time.
I refuse to believe that it's the end for Tony Ferguson. I mean, I just, like I said, I'll back the bloke until the day he dies, and even until the day I die. I just love Tony Ferguson to bits. I mean, it really was a shame. Like, I saw the ring walk. I saw his Octagon walkout playlist. I was just there like, come on, this is Tony time. It's going to happen. He's going to get the dub. But again, you saw in his fight with Charles Oliveira how easy it was for Charles to take him down. That sort of seems to be the game plan when you're fighting Tony Ferguson. Now, I know Justin Gaethje tore him apart on the feet, but in his last two fights, he's been taken to the mat and really, really, really taken some damage on the canvas. I mean, how he didn't tap when Beneil Dariush had that heel hook, because he was screaming for like 10 seconds. I was just there, look, Tony, don't put yourself through any more trouble and pain. Just tap. There'd be no shame in losing that way because you're a true warrior. Nope, kept going. And fair play, because you're going to have to kill Tony Ferguson to put him away. But I like I said, I was disappointed in the result, but take nothing away from Beneil Dariush. I mean, so many people were overlooking him leading up to the fight. He's on like a 6 or 7 fight winning streak now. I think he's a 7-fight winning streak. And he definitely deserves his seat amongst the best at 155 because he's had to work so hard for it. We knew going into this, Beneil Dariush was so well-rounded. He had the black belt in BJJ. And you saw in his last couple of fights, you saw his knockout win over Scott Holtzman. Sensational. I mean, he's improved his striking aspect and striking game over the last 2 or 3 fights. And I think now, in the fight with Tony Ferguson, he relied on his grappling. And again, fair play, because it worked for Charles against Tony. So if it works for Charles, why not? And right from the get-go, Dariush was sort of really aggressive in his approach. He started landing those nice overhand left combinations and those quick counters. And I think Ferguson knocked him back momentarily. But again, Dariush was just pressuring forward, and he took a couple of shots early on, and then not that long after, Dariush sort of shot and managed to get the fight to the floor. And that's how it was for the majority of the fight, wasn't it? The majority of the fight took place on the floor. Dariush was just advancing. He nearly got the submission, and he had some very good spells when he was passing guard and in the half guard. So I can't really complain, and how he cranked Tony Ferguson in that heel hook. Fair play, because that was a nice transition. And again, like I said, you could tell he was in visible agony, Tony Ferguson. So to not tap and keep going, fair play to him. But I think it's fair to say Beneil won all 3 rounds by a long stretch, by a country mile. It wasn't even close. It was 3-0. No one could have any complaints. And again, he had a couple of submission attempts, Beneil Dariush, but only got the comfortable decision victory. So with that being said, I throw him up there. I throw him in now with Rafael dos Anjos. I think it's the fight to make sense. I genuinely, I think he needs a fight like Rafael dos Anjos to prove that he can, compete with the top guys. I know I want to see Beneil Dariush compete, with the likes of, Dustin Poirier, Conor McGregor, Michael Chandler, Charles Oliveira, Justin Gaethje, all them not. But I still think he needs one more win under his belt. Throw him up against either Rafael dos Anjos or Dan Hooker. Yeah. But then Dan Hooker's coming off of a loss, so I don't think Beneil Dariush is that type of guy. He wants to keep the momentum going. He wants to fight the top guys. And I know Rafael dos Anjos has had 1 fight back at 155, and that was a comfortable decision win against Paul Felder. So I think Rafael dos Anjos makes sense for Beneil Dariush, considering everyone else in the top 5 is booked bar Gaethje.
100%. I was thinking either Booker or dos Anjos as well. I think it probably would be dos Anjos just because obviously he's coming off the win against Felder, but I'm going to throw a name out that I've seen online as well for Tony. Obviously, maybe the rematch at 155.
Yeah, I saw that because
Mm.
Donald Cerrone wanted to, before the Diego Sanchez fight, he wanted to go back down to 155. Obviously, he didn't get that. I don't know. I mean, it kind of makes sense, but then in a way, it really just does not make sense at all. I mean, it depends how the UFC want to play it out. Because if you put them together, whoever loses that fight has to either retire or sort of get kicked out from the UFC because they're both on like poor streaks at the moment. Obviously, Don Cerrone is, apart from that draw with Nico Price. I can't remember the last time he's won. 2018, I think.
I think he's not won in his past 6 around it.
Yeah, I don't think he's won since 2018. Who did he beat? He had a fight after. Was it? It might have been Ally Quinta.
It might have been Ally Quinta. Yeah,
that was way back when, wasn't it? Nearly 3 years ago. So again, I like Donald Cerrone. He's a true legend of the sport, but like I said, it kind of makes sense, but it kind of doesn't. If you just want to stick him in there, and again with Tony Ferguson, it might be the sort of confidence booster he needs if he gets away with the win. But I can't see him. This is it. And again, I really hate to admit it, but it's the end for Tony. I just don't see him competing with the top guys at 155 again, which is a shame because when we saw him on that 12-fight win streak, he was unbeatable. No, I genuinely believe that no one could beat him inside the octagon. I genuinely believe that he would have caused, well, I thought he would have caused a lot of problems for Khabib, but then you look at his last 2 fights with how easy that it was for him to get taken to the floor. It probably was going to be a one-sided affair, but for Khabib, I just think we wanted to see it for the sake of it because it was scheduled so many times, five, 6 times. It just never happened, which was a shame. I think people just wanted to see it for the sake of it, seeing it.
Well, yeah, I don't know with Tony anymore. I just think one more fight, he loses, it is the end. I think.
Yeah.
If he wins, well, to be honest, if he wins, I don't know because I don't see him competing against the top guys, but I'm not sure. Let's talk about the main event, obviously.
Go ahead.
I was gutted. I'm a big fan of Michael Chandler from his Bellator days, and it was good to see him have that run within Bellator and then come over to the UFC. And to be honest, I was gutted for him, but at the same time, I was buzzing for Oliveira.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to be disappointed. I was going to be disappointed, but happy either way. But to be honest, Oliveira deserved it. Like, I can't remember who said it, but if they carried on, it could have been one of the fights of the year. Because obviously, as we've seen in the first round, Oliveira almost submitted Chandler. Chandler almost TKO'd Oliveira. And then I did not expect that second round from Oliveira. Did not expect that by a long shot. And to be honest, I'm not even disappointed. I'm just excited to see what Oliveira's reign's going to look like. And to be honest, I've got a feeling that it may not be as long as people think because obviously, like I think it was Ariel Helwani said yesterday on his show with DC, that he's got to fight the winner of Conor and Poirier next, and
he's underdog for both fights.
And as much as it pains me to say, I think Poirier is going to win the trilogy. My mind will probably swing towards Conor during the fight, but at the minute, I'd probably edge towards Dustin. But
personally, I think Dustin Poirier is the best lightweight in the division right now. Personally, that's my opinion. And you can disagree with it all you want, but I think Dustin Poirier is by far the best.
No, I was going to say I don't think Oliveira defeats Poirier. I think Poirier.
No.
I think Poirier gets a dominant decision against Oliveira, or he could even finish him.
Finish him there on the 4th or 5th, maybe, because that fight with Michael Chandler showed that he's not unbeatable, that he can be beaten because you stick him against the top guys who can sort of defend the takedowns and have that power to knock somebody out. Like Chandler nearly put him away. And I think you look at Justin Gaethje, Conor McGregor, Dustin Poirier, they all can beat Charles Oliveira. And then it it's painful to say, but I just don't. It will probably be one of those sort of divisions now whereby we'll have like so many different eras as a champion. No one will defend the belt consecutively because it's always getting taken off the champion. Say if Conor McGregor wins against Charles, like Dustin Poirier, and then beats Charles Oliveira, someone will probably beat. He might even sort of vacate the belt, and then you might have like Dustin Poirier winning the title, and then he might lose to like Justin Gaethje or Michael Chandler, for example. But I don't know. I can't see it happening. So it's just going to be that sort of repetitive cycle now, repetitive circle for the upcoming years or so. I mean, I think at the start of like last year or last year at some time, I genuinely predicted Charles Oliveira to win the lightweight title. And early on, going into fight week, I did want Michael Chandler to win. My heart was saying Michael Chandler, but my head was saying Charles Oliveira, and I did predict Michael Chandler to put him away because I think immediately in the early exchanges, Charles Oliveira tripped Michael Chandler up for a brief moment, and then Chandler sort of starting to send out a couple of jabs and right hands, targeting the body early on. And I was like, yeah, we've got ourselves a fight. And then I genuinely thought he was going to submit Michael Chandler as well, because I know with the wrestlers, they sort of like to sort of give up the back and try and get on the knee and then sort of push their way back up into the fight in their favour. And I genuinely thought he was going to give up his neck and that easily, because he looked like he was going to get the submission. And then all of a sudden, Charles Oliveira sort of stupidly sort of slams himself backwards onto the cage, onto the canvas. And then immediately after, Michael Chandler was in the guillotine. Like, he had the guillotine choke on Charles Oliveira. And then when the pair was sort of on the feet again, trading blows, I was just there like, I was on the edge of my seat. I was literally applauding every bloody 5 seconds because it was such a good fight. And I genuinely believed that Michael Chandler was so close to putting it away because he had that big left hook and followed it up with some absolute bombs. And I for a brief second, you saw like Charles Oliveira's head go a little bit before pushing himself back up against the cage and sort of working up against there. And he landed some hard ground and pounds, Michael Chandler, and some good elbows. And I think towards the end, Charles Oliveira was literally just latching on, holding for dear life. And then round two, oh my God, I did not expect that whatsoever. He came out guns blazing. He dropped Michael Chandler with the left hook in the opening second. He tried to pop back up on his feet and sort of run away, but he got buried in those punches until obviously the referee stepped in. And we now have a new era. The new lightweight era has begun officially. So I'm looking forward to the next couple of months because we've got so many tasty fights to look forward to. We've got obviously Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier, the trilogy, and then we've got Justin Gaethje in contention. Yeah, I put him against Michael Chandler, to say. Yeah. I totally agree. I can see Charles Oliveira is literally definitely fighting the winner of Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier, and I'm pretty sure he'll be in attendance for that fight. He might come in. I'd like it if he comes into the cage afterwards and starts, giving it. But I don't know if he's that. Well, I think he's that type of guy because you saw his comments with Conor McGregor. He does not like the mystic mark whatsoever. And Dustin Poirier, I'm sure he'll give it towards the diamond as well. So I'm sure he'll be in attendance with the belt draped around his shoulder and around his waist and sort of giving it come fight night. And it'll be a good spectacle, to say the least, because you'll probably have a good fight between Poirier and McGregor, and then Charles Oliveira rushing into the cage, sort of giving it to the pair. And this is definitely what we need. I think Michael Chandler will be back. He showed in that fight that he deserves to be within title contention and deserves to be competing against the best at 155 because, as I said, and as you said, he nearly put him away. So I think it was just one of those fights really where he got rocked and stunned, and these things happen in mixed martial arts. It's just a crazy sport because you look at the first round and he was all bloodied up. Charles Oliveira was like, yeah, Michael Chandler's just going to put him away in the second round because he was, facing some adversity, Charles Oliveira, but came up guns blazing, fair play to him, even though he took a lot of damage towards the end of the first round. And then to put him away within like 20 seconds of the second round, just spectacular. So we'll have to keep our eye on the lightweight matchups in the upcoming months, and we'll go from there. Really, I don't know. It depends really what the UFC want to do. I can see personally Charles Oliveira fighting again this year, Christmas time maybe. whether that be against Conor McGregor or Dustin Poirier, because I'm sure Conor McGregor, he said he wants to fight 3 times this year, and if you offer the title now to Dustin Poirier, if he beats Conor McGregor, obviously he's going to accept it, because I don't really blame Poirier for taking the trilogy, the money fight, as much as I think he's the best lightweight in the division. Try and get another big payday and then win the belt potentially. So yeah, it's literally you've got all the ingredients to be a tasty few months in the lightweight division, mate.
Well, I've got 2 points just off UFC 262 to make. Obviously, we've been talking about the Poirier McGregor. Do you think if McGregor loses, he'll fight again this year? Because I don't. This
year, no, I don't think so. I think he'll take some time off and then maybe fight early next year, because I genuinely don't know. I'm sure he's training his ass off in Abu Dhabi or wherever. He's still on Fight Island, and I just, with 8 weeks to go, has he ditched? I don't know. Has he ditched John Kavanagh and all that? Because they're nowhere to be seen. And you think now, I saw Gilbert Burns tweet recently. He's just started his fight camp. So I think when it comes to sort of the 8 to 9 week period before a fight, that's when you've got to be in camp and you've got to be with your coaches and sort of working out the game plan and all that. But I don't know. I could be wrong. The coaches might travel over to. Sorry.
I was going to say, I've seen John Kavanagh put a post on Instagram, I think a couple of days ago, that he's going to be away for 2-3 months. So maybe he's gone joining Conor.
Oh, really?
I think so.
Oh, where's that on his Instagram or?
I think it was on his Instagram. Yeah.
I don't follow him on Instagram, but if that's the case, then okay, then maybe he's going out to Abu Dhabi or wherever, because they trained in Portugal, didn't they, for Poirier, the second one? So they might go Portugal again, or they might go somewhere abroad to train for the fight. And if that's the case, then fair enough. Sorry,
they're not going to train in Ireland for that.
Or train in Ireland? No, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see, because from the sounds of it, he enjoyed the training camp in Portugal, but he said now he's going to spend the camp away from his family, which is a big ask, because obviously they brought another kid into the world, and for him to spend 8 weeks away without the third child is, it just shows his sort of mentality and his willingness to sort of get back to the top if that's the case. Because if you're bringing a new baby into the world and then going off to a different country and fighting for the belt and fighting for the belt, fighting Dustin Poirier in the trilogy and doing those hard rounds and doing those hard sparring sessions and doing those hard training sessions and preparing for a fight with Dustin Poirier, with nothing but respect. And we will have to wait and see, because I know Conor McGregor, he said, no more Mr. Nice Guy, I'm going to take this seriously now. But we've heard it all before. I just want to see him sort of walk the walk as well as talking the talking, because he does they're talking a lot. I just want to see him walking it out. I love Conor McGregor to bits. I just think if he can check those leg kicks and defend those takedowns, because I just know Dustin Poirier will try and sort of get the fight to the floor, because he got the fight to the floor within 30 seconds of the second fight. So if he can he's got good clinch work, Conor McGregor, don't get me wrong, and that's sort of the time where he can land those sort of vicious elbows, those sort of sneaky shoulder strikes in there. So if he can check those kicks and have that traditional kickboxing, sort of that traditional kickboxer stance, or the karate stance we used to see back in the day, then maybe he'll come out on top. But then, as soon as I see videos of the boxing, Crumlin boxing group within his training camp, I just know Dustin Poirier is going to win, because I can't stand him. I know he was with them since day one with the Crumlin boxing group. I think he went there when he was 10. This is mixed martial arts. This is not boxing. And if you're going to bring them into your training camp, then you can forget about winning against Dustin Poirier, because I just don't see it. I genuinely can't see why bring in boxing coaches that know nothing about mixed martial arts. Okay, fine, they've got a good striking background, but you need more than that in mixed martial arts. You've got to have good wrestling, you've got to have good jiu-jitsu, you've got to be good everywhere in mixed martial arts. And you saw him adopt that boxing southpaw approach against Dustin Poirier, and look what happened. And like I said, as soon as I see that boxing club in his fight camp, it's game over. I'm still probably going to support McGregor, but again, I'm going to put it out there. As soon as I see him, I just can't back him. It's going to be tough.
Well, last point I wanted to ask, who do you have for this weekend, Rob Font or Cody Garbrandt? Because I think I really don't know. I want Garbrandt, but my head's for Font, my heart's for Garbrandt.
It really is a tough one, isn't it? Because obviously Cody Garbrandt, he hasn't fought since his win over, was it a
That's what I'm saying.
Since that was nearly a year ago. And Rob Font is on a great sort of spell right now because he's coming off of that win a couple months ago against Marlon Moraes. Fair play to Rob Font because Marlon Moraes is no walkover. He got the decision win over Ricky Simone and Sergio Pettis before that 2 years ago. Since his defeat to Asuncao way back when, nearly 3 years ago, sort of seen a new Rob Font sort of burst his way up the rankings. He's 33 now, so if he's gonna sort of get in the title contention, it has to be now. He's got to start putting the wins in. He's 18-4 overall, and he's on the best spell of his life. He's in with a shot of getting a title contender next. If he wins against Cody Garbrandt, I suspect he'll have like a top 3, top 4 guy afterwards, and potentially get the title if he wins that. I don't know. I'm probably leaning towards Rob Font via finish because with Cody Garbrandt, as you see, he gets too emotionally invested in the finish, and that's when sort of the opponents react and they counter that and they get the stoppage. But then we saw in the fight with the Asuncao, I mean, Cody Garbrandt looked great, looked phenomenal, but he still, I don't know, still looked a bit off. I think he was a bit more patient. I think he's switched camps, hasn't he? He's sort of switched coaches. I don't know who it's with. I want to say, who do I think it is? Is it with Mark Henry? I don't know. I could be wrong.
I think it
don't
might
hold me
be.
to that. Yeah, don't hold me to that. I could be wrong, but he's definitely switched coaches. But if he can sort of remain patient, because again, this is a big fight for Cody Garbrandt. He's coming off of those 3 losses, and then to beat Asuncao, this is a perfect opportunity for him to get back in contention in the title picture, really. So he doesn't, from his sort of perspective, he will not want to let this slip. So I don't know. That's a tough one. I'm probably going to lean towards Rob Font, but I wouldn't be surprised if Cody Garbrandt came out guns blazing because he's had that experience in the big fights. But we'll have to wait and see.
Well, I think we end the show there. If you're happy with that, mate, you got anything else to add?
Yeah. No, that's all for me. We've gone through 42 minutes. We've done very well today.
Well, obviously, guys, there may be an episode late this week, which will just be myself, because obviously James is almost finishing uni now, so it'll just be myself, I think, Thursday if that episode goes ahead. But then looking forward to next week or the week after when we hit episode 50. And like James said at the beginning of the show, we're almost at 1 year of the podcast, so make sure you stay tuned June 12th, and we will make sure we have an episode definitely on that date. Take care, everyone.